Hi, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog, and we're going to get started here in just a little bit. We're scheduled to start at 2. So we have a few people registered. Right now, I think I only have about 2 attendees at the moment, so we're going to go ahead and just give it a second to see if we can grab a few more people. But we should be starting right at 2 o'clock here. On the screen, we are showing the reports agenda that we're going to be going over today. As you can see, it's a shorter list of items, so we'll probably get through this rather quickly. So that's great. We're going to have time for any questions. If you guys have any questions at the end of the day. Of course, if it's the first time you're joining us for a webinar, please know that you can always raise your hand at any time. I'm going to try to go ahead and pay as close attention to that as possible. So you can try to go ahead and grab people's questions while they're fresh in their minds. If I do happen to miss you, I apologize. But like I said, we will have a much longer question and answer portion towards the end. And if at the end of our training here, or at the end of this webinar here, if we go ahead and end a little early if nobody has any further questions, but just know that everyone will go ahead and get an emailed copy of this recording. And if we are looking at any reports that you're very interested in, you wanted to go ahead and maybe miss the name, you can always feel free to go ahead and email me, lizm@bighairydog.com. And again, so we'll start here in just a little bit. Thank you so much, and my name is Liz. Be with you shortly. All right, so we got a few more people that joined us. Again, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog. We're going to be starting here in about 2 minutes, right at 2, waiting for any stragglers that are still signing up. Displaying on the screen is going to be just a brief agenda of what we're going to be going over. This is a shorter webinar, of course, because QuickBooks is very user friendly. It's a great thing about it. So we will have plenty of time for question and answer. Again, if you're new to the webinar, please feel free to go ahead and raise your hand, and then I know to kind of take a pause, and we can go ahead and grab your question right then and there. If not, like I said, will be a question and answer portion. You can either go ahead and type out your question directly through the webinar interface, or if you're interested, we can go ahead and unmute you. We can have a little discussion. So we'll get started here in just a second. Thank you. All right, and so it's officially 2. We're going to begin our reports webinar today. Give me just a moment. We're going to go ahead and get my QuickBooks up here. And so a few of you guys might recognize this QuickBooks version 18. I did want to go ahead and just kind of take a moment to remind everyone that QuickBooks has released the much waited for version 19, and that version does come with a lot of upgraded e-commerce integration, as well as a save an email button directly from point of sale. So we integrate with Outlook, and then it just goes ahead and sends that email directly from your point of sale screen to the customer. So extremely helpful, really pretty easy to use, easy to set up. You do have to go ahead and set it up through Outlook though, which if you do have like a business Gmail or anything like that, we can talk later, but that can also be set up. So let's just dive right into it. So like you saw a moment ago here on my screen, we're going to just jump right into reports. And so there are many reports available to you within the reports module of QuickBooks, and they're all kind of broken out right over here. I'm going to actually jump into our reports center first. We're going to do a brief overview of report types. And with that, I do want to go ahead and mention there are a few report types that you might not have available unless you've unlocked that particular feature of QuickBooks, or you have that data. For example, like our cash drawer report. So the cash drawer Z out drawer count, you might not actually have anything here unless you've done a Z out. Oh, excuse me, I'll go ahead and we're going to cancel this. We're going to jump in now one more time, cash drawer. Let me see. So I said over here, that drawer count, you're not going to go ahead and see that unless we've had a little bit of drawer count history. And then of course the difference between that X out and the Z out, although they are both end of day closing reports, or qualify as end of day closing reports, the X out can be run at any time. That is essentially just a checkup on your sales, how things are going, whereas the Z out is more that reconciliation / store close at the end of the day. To begin, though, like I said, we're going to go ahead and jump into our report center. And right off the bat, that's going to drop you into our overview of reports. And so from our overview, you can see kind of a few really popular sales, customers, and items reports. And these are set up by QuickBooks, and so they just go ahead and again show you a few of the most popular. The memorized reports, of course, are going to be reports that we have modified or edited in some way, and then we can go ahead and memorize them. But QuickBooks does give you a few right out of the box. The busy times, today's receipts, and best 20 items. And they do this because this is their probably most widely used 3 reports, I'd say. From this report center overview, we can go ahead and create a brand new report. And although it is pretty quick and easy to create the brand new report, I would probably recommend taking a moment to take a look at the all report. Chances are there's the report that you're looking for is there, but might not be showing or displaying all of the columns that you need, in which case we could very easily modify that report. And so I'm going to go ahead and just jump over here to all reports. And so we can see that broken out by sales, cash drawer again, payments, customers, items, purchasing, employee, and again, my memorized report. So I'm going to go ahead and take, for example, one of my basic sales reports. And let me go ahead and grab like a department summary report. I have very limited data in my particular setup, and some of you might actually not even be using departments. So of course, we might want to go ahead and use maybe an item level summary report instead. But in this case, we would just go ahead and have basic departments. Anywhere where you see this little Z magnifying glass, it's going to allow you to drill down further into that department. So let's go ahead and take a look at my clothing department here. And see, within that clothing department, I have all of these items. I can drill down even further, and I can go ahead and see exactly when these items were sold. I can drill down even further and take a look at the specific receipt that this item was on. Close, then we're going to close, come back up, and I accidentally closed out. A little too excited, but it's just one example of that drill down function. Now this is that item summary report. At the item level, we still have that drill down capability. And again, we can go ahead and see every receipt that that item was listed on. And so if you can tell that it goes ahead and opens up actually another tab over here. And so if I do that again, here we go. Now it's on that actual document. We have that pop-up, and our sales detail tab, which is technically a different report, is still open on my top tab. I can go ahead and close that out. All right, now modifications, adding and removing things. We're going to go ahead and just touch on it a little bit throughout. We still haven't touched on every single report type. We're still only in sales, but of course, like I said, chances are you're going to be working through these and seeing reports that you really enjoy, but it's just missing a little bit of information. And so in that case, what we want to do is we want to modify the report. It's always good to even just check to see if there's any additional information that might benefit you that you might not be thinking of. And so when I modify that report, it gives me some options. So I can add, remove columns. I can filter my data. I can change my report appearance, and then set report access levels. So if you have, especially in a multi-store environment, or if we have set up employees with logins, and so everyone's expected to be logged in under their own accurate user, that's when the security is really going to be the most beneficial. If everyone's signing in as sysadmin, then, the access levels don't really matter as much then. But we're going to go ahead and click that add or remove columns. Remember, we can also access the date range either through here under modify or report, or just directly on the screen. Once we edit those dates, though, we have to remember to apply the date range. And just like remembering to apply the date range, if we add or remove columns, before we go ahead and actually see that change, we have to essentially just rerun the report. So I'm going to go ahead and click this add or remove columns. And you can see at the very top, we have all of the columns that are already on this particular report. So you can see we have a lot that's still available to us. Personally, margin percent is nice, but I want to see that margin dollar. And let me go ahead and see. So ultimately, it is sorting by vendor. I would like it to sort by department. There we go. Now I can save that, and we can run. And there we go. Now we're sorting by department, and I have a little subgrouping for my department. And again, now I have my margin dollar. Anywhere where you see a little blue circle, you can select it, and you will sort by that particular area. Whether the triangle is pointing up or down, it speaks to whether that's ascending or descending. And then, of course, moving the little black, almost looks like a star around, will allow you to adjust the column width. If you're happy with this width here, I can even right click and hit adjust column width again, and it will go ahead and kind of neaten things up, tidy it up a little bit, and that's going to be for the entire report though, not just the column that I was on. All right. Let me go ahead and back out of this item summary report. I'm not seeing any questions just yet, so I'm hoping people are clear on the purpose of this report, but the purpose of this report is just that, to give you a bird's eye view on what's going on, but at an item level. And with that subgrouping per department, this report kind of does a little of column A and a little of column B. We don't have to run that department level report because we see it subtotaled here on the item summary. But remember, we did make modifications to this report. So if I close it and run it again, it's not going to have those modifications saved. So if you wanted to go ahead and save that, what we do is we hit the I want to button, and then we're going to hit memorize this report. It allows us to go ahead and edit the report name. Let's just say with and dollar. You can also go ahead and save the filters that you use. So if we filter this to a specific vendor or department, I would be able to go ahead and memorize the report as is and add it to the same memorized report. Then I can have item summary with margin dollar and then item summary with margin dollar for vendor A. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it what type of reports, and we're going to leave that under my reports. You can go ahead and manage reports and create subgroupings as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just say okay for right now because I want this under my reports. I want to make sure I know exactly where it is. And there we go. Now it's saved. If I close this, go down to reports, memorize reports, I have it right there. I jump back into my report center. And again, I keep jumping into my report center, but we do also have access to a lot of reports directly from within our home screen here. And it's same if we just hit that reports button and just hover over it slightly, we can see all of those sales reports, our cash flow reports, payments, customers, items, really everything. One thing that you'll see that is not on my particular list is financial exchange reports. So financial exchange reports, if you are integrated with QuickBooks Financial, you'll have access to those additional reports as well. Unfortunately, I'm not integrated at this time on this machine, so I apologize for that. But if you have any questions at all, please feel free to go ahead and email me, and I will go ahead and make sure that those questions get answered. I didn't mention it earlier, but I do have my email over here on the sticky note, lizm@bighairydog.com, and of course our tech support number. Hopefully everyone knows, but if you need a reminder, it's also right there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take another moment to jump into my reports, and we're going to go ahead and jump back to the report center. If you notice, I am bypassing the dashboard. We're going to take a moment to talk about the dashboard in just a second. You'll see my dashboard is pretty basic, though. Again, this is just kind of our test demo data. There's not a lot to it. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into my item list over here. I'm going to jump into my summary with activity. This is one of those reports that I notice a lot of people running, so I enjoy going and using it as an example. So with this report, again, we can go ahead and see what's going on with every department, extended price in inventory, and your sold prices in inventory. No drill down. You can see we don't have any drill down because we don't have that little magnifying Z. But still, I want to, and memorize this report after modifying it. I can filter the data and again decide what information do I want this report to be looking at. Is there maybe some items that I don't want it to consider? Especially when we get closer to these holidays and their seasonal times, maybe there are certain things that I kind of want to exclude. So excluding my seasonal items, how is everything else doing? And then just looking at my seasonal items, how are we doing compared to maybe last year? And then besides our filtering, I know filtering we might go over a little bit more heavily. We're doing more of an inventory webinar, but I just want people to go ahead and remember that we have options within QuickBooks. And one of those really cool options is utilizing our and/or logic and filters. So we can go ahead and put an item name and then a different item name, and it would go ahead and be able to grab both of those items. Careful when using and, though, because of course if we use and, then it needs to hit both of those filter criteria in order for it to grab that item. And when you're on a field like item name, we might not have that. So let's go ahead and actually cancel out of here. Besides that, we can also go ahead and include or exclude items. So we don't necessarily have to be filtering for these items. We can also just filter to exclude these items or these particular receipts. If you're running receipts and you realize that, hey, I'm, not seeing some of my web sales on this particular report. We want to come in here and make sure that we're filtering to our web sales and that maybe someone didn't accidentally remove that filter, especially if it's one of your memorized reports. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of there. And so we do have all the way down here into our quick pick group. So we can even say if it's part of that group, I want you to exclude it. Everything else, I want to see how it's doing. Cancel out of there. Besides that, we can also, of course, export to Excel. Exporting and importing into QuickBooks is so easy. We're going to go ahead and just hit that Excel button. And there we go. It goes ahead and pops it up really nicely. I haven't had any QuickBooks reports that when I run them, the format or the font is way out of whack or the columns are not in order. I haven't seen that just yet. Not to say that it is impossible. So if you are experiencing anything like that, please give us a call and we'll go ahead and work with you to get it sorted out. But normally, like I said, it's pretty seamless that it throws it into Excel. And then once in Excel, we of course can filter, sort, subtotal a little differently if we want to, if the report that is in QuickBooks wasn't exactly perfect. Close that. And of course, we can go ahead and print directly from QuickBooks, or we can go ahead and play with it in Excel and print it from there, so long as we're connected to a printer. Again, if you have any printer issues, it's a little bit more of a tech call, let us know. We will go ahead and help set up your printer. All right. So besides that, I'm going to go ahead and close this. So our reports. Besides that, everything else is going to be, very, very similar in functionality, but you're going to, of course, have extremely different reports based on where you're at. And if you feel like you want a report that kind of does an all-in-one, I would say that maybe you can consider creating a report and starting from scratch. The one downside to creating a report from scratch is that you are still limited to, I guess, the guidelines that QuickBooks and Intuit has set up for you. So we're going to go ahead and come right over here, and we're going to hit Create Report. And you see, we have to go ahead and decide, are we doing a sales type report, customers, inventory, what part of the data are we going to be looking at today? So we're going to go ahead and say, I want to look at my sales. So we can decide whether we want summarized sales, whether we're interested in getting graphs, detailed with receipt information, or if we're looking at just tax collected. We also have options for our mobile sales, and that's going to go ahead and line up with our Go Payments app and our inventory that we sync to that particular app. For this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and just do a summarized sales graph. And I want them to be summarized by, we'll do by the item because I don't have a whole lot of departments in this particular setup. And let's go ahead and just do, well, I'll have to do, I have more departments than I do vendors at least. All right, and I'm going to hit next here. And then we can decide on the date range what it defaults to. I'm going to go ahead and change my graph content, and I can decide what we're currently displaying. I actually wanted to go ahead and display total margin dollar. And let's do a pie chart. I think those are a little bit, well, I like them. We're going to hit save here. We can filter the data again, so if we wanted to go ahead and have, or if we only wanted to see how our web sales were doing, we'd be able to go ahead and remove our regular sales and returns and just see those web sales and returns, and vice versa. For now, I'm going to go ahead and let it look at everything. So we can go ahead and change the graph appearance here, and just like we can go ahead and edit our report appearance, we can play with the fonts that are displaying and how big everything is, and the orientation of the page, of course. Cancel out of here. And I'm not going to set any access levels. I don't actually have other employees in this particular setup, and so I don't even have a password. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and run this one. I'm not going to go ahead and print the full descriptions. As you can see, QuickBooks really does do a good job of trying to tell you kind of why it does these things, so it may significantly increase the number of pages. This is why it's not automatically a default. we're going to go ahead and just run it this way. And there we go. It's a pretty basic little graph, but it can give you some really good information, especially when you have actual data in here. And you can go ahead and still flip it over here and edit it. That was just kind of at runtime. You can make that change, and then you can go ahead and change it here. Oh, extended cost gave me a little bit of an error there. Go ahead and close that out. And so creating those reports are really quick. You don't have to keep them. You can actually just let them go. You can memorize them if you'd like them. But other than that, like I said, I would say most of the reports that are already made are going to handle about 99% of what you need. It's just getting in there, modifying those reports, and then the other level is, are you looking at the right level? So if we're looking at our bird's eye view of our department, and we're expecting item level information, and we either need a report that's going to allow us to drill down and get it when we need it, or just get those item level reports and have that subtotal for us at the breaks, or at the departments, at the vendors, whatever we really need. And essentially it's just coming at the same problem from two different ways. You go ahead and cancel out of here. All right. And so, like I said, this was a little bit of a shorter webinar. We've gone over the basics of reporting. The only other thing is just if you guys have any questions, the report types, of course, we didn't go into detail on what exactly it did, but of course, sales is going to be our sales information. Cash drawer, again, is going to be our closing. Payments is going to go ahead and be all of the alternative payments, gift cards, essentially all of the tender transactions that we do, or tender exchange. Excuse me, that was difficult for me there. But all of our tender exchange, sales that are not true sales, but essentially just that exchange. I'm giving you, you're giving me a 10, I'm giving you 2 5s. That's essentially what a gift card is. You're giving me $100, I'm giving you $100 back, but it's just in a different form of tender. Of course, our customers, we have access to everything from a general customer list. You can just export and you can go and pull that into Constant Contact, MailChimp, any way that you like to market to your customers. Or of course, we can go ahead and get down to these sales orders and layaway information. We can actually go ahead and see, do we have any open sales orders? If we have any open sales orders, do they have deposit balances on them? And those are the ones that I'm concerned about. The ones that have deposit balances on them, why aren't these people picking up their items? Besides that, we also have even our order summary and deposit details. So this is a little bit more detailed information about these deposits, and we can drill down into which customers are on those particular SOs. Our rewards program. So these will only be available if you are if you turn tracking on and you're part of the rewards program, or you're running a rewards program. You can see your member list and the reward history. You're going to speak to, when people actually meet those rewards that you've set up, when did they exchange them, and there is, if you're interested in any of those rewards or talking a little bit more about that, I just wanted to go ahead and mention that you can go ahead and put in rules and guidelines to make it so that people can't claim their rewards until you've passed by that return window. So that was a little bit of a problem that I was hearing for a little while with our QuickBooks users. People would confirm, or people would take their rewards, exchange them for their points or their discount or whatever it was, and then the items that got them their rewards, they would return them the next day. So there are some ways that we can go ahead and go around that if you're interested in talking a little bit more about customer rewards within QuickBooks. So that is another one that will not be available unless you actually go ahead and have that enabled. And if you wanted to see that, it's just over here under Reward Manager, and you can turn that on and off. Now, the dashboard. The dashboard is something that you can personalize, and we would highly recommend that you personalize this. Get your favorite reports on the screen. You can see actually that we have our department sales graph over here, and it sort of gives you a little bit of a breakdown at first glance. We should go ahead and make sure that this is information that is going to be pertinent to you. And as we go through it, though, QuickBooks will go ahead and be able to build a little bit itself based on your history. This would be more impressive had I had more data. So go ahead and please check out your dashboard if you haven't done so in a while, and make sure that you're really utilizing it as much as you'd like to. Go ahead and close this. And let me jump back into our report center. And actually, I do think that's about it. That's about it that I had to go ahead and show you guys. Everything else is going to be pretty standard. Of course, while you're in reports and running reports, you can use the switch to make a sale to jump right back in if you're stuck at point of sale. I know a lot of us are kind of wearing multiple hats right now. And of course, the I want to, besides giving you, the option to manage your own reports or go to your dashboard, it allows you to create a report. And you can honestly create a report in a few different places. You don't have to be over here using that I want to. Anywhere within the reports areas, if you click that I want to, it's going to go ahead and want to give you an option to create that report. All right. So I know I said it earlier, but this is officially, I think, where I'm done. We've gone over everything in our agenda for today, including that creating reports from scratch. We just did a basic graph, but we can go ahead and do like an item list or summarized inventory, something that's not a graph. And I'm just going to go ahead and kind of do a little basic one right here. So this has some basic department on hand, on order. I also want item number, item description, or actually item name for sure. That I'm not going to know any of my items unless I have that. Let me get margin, and I want my regular price. All right, I'm going to run. And there we go. And just like any other report, I can go ahead and edit these columns, adjust. It works like a normal report now. I can go ahead and modify it still and just rerun it, adjust my column width to make it a little neater, and I can drill down. All right. And it looks like we do have a question. Give me just a moment. Oh yes, when doing seasonal inventory for a store, what would be some good reports to use to identify loss or discrepancies? And so that question came from Brandon. Brandon, I have a little bit of a follow-up for you. Are you doing a full PI, or is this more like cycle counts? Let me see. Brandon, I've unmuted you if you have a mic.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Cool. So yeah, we do inventory twice seasonally. We're a retail plant nursery, so we do one kind of pretty soon in the next month or so, and then we'll do another one kind of early spring. So just to identify, I'm assuming we just need to run some reports with showing like things that are negative, and that might highlight some discrepancies as far as inventory goes, whether something was entered in wrong or whether that's an actual loss or what it actually was.
Yes, so there's a few things that I wanted to go ahead and point out. So if you're actually using the PI tool, then the PI itself will go ahead and give you a few reports at the end and at the beginning, just a few PI discrepancy reports. If you wanted to kind of get ahead and kind of knock some of it out, I would definitely take a look at adjustments. Because chances are, if there was a discrepancy somewhere and if somebody created it accidentally, then they probably created it via an adjustment, or an adjustment was made automatically. If it was like a minor receiving error where they accidentally typed a 4 instead of a 5, that one's going to be a little bit harder to find, but the adjustments are going to be those ones are a little bit more snappy. So we can go ahead and see a quantity summary or quantity detail, jump in there, and you can actually see every time that the item has been edited. So you see the source was within inventory, this item was edited, and the number was moved to 11 here. So we can see all of these items were edited. So the new quantity is here, and originally they had a 0 on-hand quantity. So it's really easy to tell. My PI would be way off, but my adjustments, I can go in there and see, well, no wonder they're way off. QuickBooks expects me to have 0 on hand, and somebody came in here and on an adjustment just put 5 everywhere. We didn't actually receive anything in via a voucher. So I would definitely start with the adjustments. And I'll give you.
So I think the bigger
head start.
I think the big one that we're going to find when we go to run inventory is people entering things in wrong. Since we're plants, it's hard to identify exactly what a plant is. So they might type in, a different variety, not really recognizing the proper variety on it. So is there ways to run reports that show like, okay, this one's -5, but this one's +5? Is there ways to maybe identify things like that and get them to match up? Is there any kind of reports that might make those correlations besides just us physically doing that, or ourselves?
Yeah. Well, our physical inventory does have discrepancies, but it's not going to go ahead and grab we have like you said, unfortunately, where we have -5 over here, but we're 5 up over here. It's not going to just assume that those items were the same. So unfortunately, I don't have a solid answer for that one. This would be a little bit more of that manual process.
Sure.
That being said, we could go ahead and run cycle counts, again, in preparation for that full PI to the department, and you can there see, what's expected. You don't have to go ahead and count your whole store, but if you wanted, again, to go ahead and do like mini sections or areas, I would say, unfortunately, I don't know the every day-to-day of a nursery, but I can hope that if it's a mistake that at least it's in the same kind of area, department, subsection of group. But if it's not, then it becomes much, much harder to match them up. But if they're within the same department, then even here we can go ahead and kind of catch ourselves. Well, we have a discrepancy of this and this. They're in the same department. We need to look at the history for these 2 items.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sorry about that. I know that wasn't the answer you were hoping for.
No, I had a feeling.
No, but thank you so much for your question. Do you have any other questions that I can go ahead and answer for you today?
Thank you, though.
Yeah. All right.
Nope.
So I'm going to go ahead and. Oh, sorry about that, Brendan. I muted you for a second. All right. And so let me see. We have one more question. And can you save the custom report? Absolutely, you can save a custom report. So if I go ahead and jump back into reports, I'm going to go ahead and just create a report. Again, I'm going to go let me do this kind of quickly. We're just going to go into inventory, summarize inventory. I'm going to let it stay by department. And I'm not going to remove or add columns. I'm just going to run this. This is pretty standard, right? But it's still one that we created. I can modify it, add a column. There we go, have it rerun. Now this is a brand new report that we created. We've modified the report, and now all I have to do is hit that I want to and then memorize this report. And then because we created it, it's not going to assume we want it to be called anything. It just says, whatever a blanket term that would fit. In this case, summary is the most apt. So we're going to go ahead and put it whatever we want. Training. All right. If anybody's ever seen any one of my webinars before, had a training with me, you'll know I'm not very creative. All of my examples are training or test something. We're going to go ahead and say, okay. And then I can go ahead and close this. I can go ahead and actually close it all. It doesn't matter. And under my reports, memorized reports, my training report is right there. And so that question was from Bill. Thank you so much, Bill. Hopefully I answered that question. If you have another question, please feel free to ask. So far, we haven't gotten any other questions just yet. So if anybody has a question, please feel free to go ahead and ask now. I'm going to go ahead and just mute myself a bit and let us all soak up the knowledge. All right, so it looks like, we might not have any more questions. That's totally fine. Like I said, reports, they are very, very user-friendly. So I would encourage you guys to jump in, play with reports a little bit. And if you hit a wall or you have any questions, again, my name is Liz. Please feel free to email me at lizm@BigHairyDog, or of course, just give us a call. We'll be more than happy to go ahead and get you on our board for some help. So if there's anybody who's all done or needs to go ahead and step out, please feel free to. Again, I'm going to hang around for a little bit longer. If there's anybody who can think of a question, I'll be here for the next few minutes as well. Thank you so much. All right, so we have one more question. Brendan, unfortunately, yes, I was mentioning that I'm showing you guys version 18 right now. There is a new version finally out. We're all really excited about it, but it's a QuickBooks Point of Sale version 19. And so version 19 does have the ability to email a receipt directly from Point of Sale. So I just wanted to go ahead and kind of do that little plug and let people know what's out and what's available. So if you're interested in that, like I said, unfortunately, I can't show it to you from right here, but it's literally just a green little button that's been added to the screen. It's called Save an Email, and it's very convenient. And the hardest part is just linking your Outlook with it. And that is as hard as, downloading Outlook and waiting for that. And, if you have slower internet, it can be a little pain in the butt. But besides that, it is, pretty seamless. And then, so it looks like, yeah, right now you're saving them as a PDF and then emailing them. Yes, that's the way that you'd have to go ahead and do it in any version pre-version 19. But again, we got some really, really cool promos going on right now too. I know Joanne is a little out of commission at the moment, but we have Team Felicia taking up the lead and making sure that all of our QuickBooks clients are being taken care of. So if you have any questions about version 19, please let us know. All right, with no further questions, and I thank everybody for joining me here today. We really appreciate you taking the time to go and take a look at how QuickBooks reporting works in QuickBooks version, in this one was version 18, but it does work the same in version 12, version 19, the newest version that is currently out. Again, thank you guys very much. You'll be emailed a copy of this recording, and we'll go ahead and let you know if there's anything really cool with QuickBooks. Please keep an eye on your email from Big Hairy Dog. We send out email blast with our promotions every now and again, but we try not to bother you too much. Again, thanks so much for joining us. My name is Liz. Have a great rest of your day. I'm going to be dismissing us here in a moment. Thank you.